Life is such a blur. Email details, more stuff. My business is consuming me. Am I really living? When do I get to do what energizes me and enjoy the rewards? Welcome to your second life. All is now doing what you love and loving what you do. It's radical creativity. Here's your host, the VIP coach, John Davidson.
Yeah, radical creativity, folks. This is the VIP coach. This is JD coming right at you. It is, oh my gosh, it's the 22nd of July, isn't it? Whoa. Where did the year go? Whoa. Does it seem like time is just moving faster? It seems that way, doesn't it? That every year we just add on, we go, gosh, time is just moving so fast. I know for me it is. Every year I get older, the time seems to become more and more scarce. You know why? Because I'm wrestling with my perceived immortality. That's right. I thought I would always be here, just like you. I thought, well, you know, if I just keep going, if I just keep doing what I've always done, but that really doesn't work. So welcome to the VIP Coach. This is Radical Creativity. I appreciate you listening to our show. My hope is that you're an entrepreneur, you're an experienced entrepreneur, and you are ready to make a huge jump in your career. And right now at this time in our modern times, you're noticing several changes. You're beginning to notice right before your eyes all kinds of changes. And what you're beginning to notice is that there's a whole different operating system that we have to be leading our companies by. And I call this Entrepreneurship 3.0. So on this show, we're going to be talking about what Entrepreneurship 3.0 means, what it means to be operating on a new system, a new entrepreneurship system over the old systems. Kind of like a computer system, right? Like the new Lion just came out for Apple. Well, this is a new operating system for entrepreneurs. Now, why is there a need for this operating system? Well, you guys, the world has changed. I'm sure you've noticed. We're totally becoming connected. We're truly becoming a global system. Businesses are governing our people more than ever, not local governments. I mean, look at Google. Look at the kind of influence. Look at the kind of attention that we give Google. Look at the kind of attention that we give Facebook. Does any governing body have that kind of attention? Not at all. Things are changing right before our eyes. And one of the biggest challenges of all of this change and all these demands on our attention that our minds weren't made for is that we are not reachable. We are not available. We're becoming a society of less reachability and less availability. What do I mean by that? That means that more and more as we navigate into the future as a society, it's more difficult to reach somebody and their attention. Think about how many businesses there are on the planet. How many businesses want your attention span? That's the biggest currency. That's what they want. They want mind share, you see. They want your mind share. How many businesses are jockeying for your mind share? How many businesses in each industry are jockeying for your mind share? Does your mind have enough space? Does it have a hard drive enough? Does it have a RAM enough to occupy everything it's trying to store? No, it does not. It just doesn't. So folks, consumers have become more selective than ever. They live in a world of abundance. There's an average of 2 cars per household. There's an average of 2 cell phones per household. The self-storage industry is a bigger industry than the entertainment industry. Is that amazing? Self-storage. We have too much stuff. We don't know what to do with it all. Why are we accumulating all this stuff? Because we think that by having all the stuff, we're going to make up for what is missing. And yeah, there's been a lot that's been missing. A lot of our drive and motivation is to compete. A lot of our drive and motivation is born out of how we identify ourselves with material things. I mean, we'd rather have high social status and win points instead of creating a fulfilling life, despite the fact that we're wrestling with our perceived immortality, right? We wake up out of a coma one day and say, you know, a lot of this stuff that's really been driving my energy and driving me and exhausting me, the bigger house, the bigger car, you know, the good-looking clothing, all the hair salons, all of this upkeep and all of this maintenance to try to be who we think we're not. These facades, our egos are costly, aren't they? They really are. So we're standing perched. We're standing perched at a time when we're being required, we're being mandated to make some changes. Why? Well, I think one of the main ones is that the very decisions that we're making individually and collectively are affecting our sustainability on the planet. Sustainability has become an enormous topic in the global summits. Sustainability is becoming more and more on the minds and conscientiousness of the business leaders of today. I guess the question you might ask is, do the business leaders really care? Now, think about that. Business institutions are the most influential force on the planet towards sustainability. There are no other institutions that have this much impact. And wouldn't you agree that the business leader has pretty much most to do with how that trickles down to the business? The way that business is being led creates a culture of personality, a cult of personality, a likelihood. Personality, folks, means likelihood and frequency. A likelihood to behave a certain way. And what a lot of us have heard, what a lot of us have noticed, is that business people are takers. They just want to soak up businesses. They want to become absorbed in their own interests, and the business is in business to make a profit. But we also know that power does not flow from people. Power flows from guiding ideas. Power flows from the outcome, the destiny, the vision, the goal, whatever that idea is that does something to the leader. And therefore, when he gets wind of that, when that becomes noble enough to create a cause, when that becomes noble enough to draw forth a group of people who want to operate under the same aim, incredible power comes out, incredible opportunity prevails. Now, I can say that after coaching hundreds of entrepreneurs, I know that they're sincere. I know that pretty much the entrepreneur of today, the ones that are getting into the marketplace, they know they can do so much good in the world. They have to now, in Entrepreneurship 3.0, come to understand what fundamentally they're really made of. I think at this time in the world, really self-education and self-awareness and being more aware of our composition, the parts of us, the organs that we draw upon to lead from, like our mind and our heart and our soul. We've got to begin to turn toward, not turn inward, not become so absorbed that we work on ourselves, but to really listen. Listen to a different ping from these intelligent sources. Some of us might call it emotional intelligence, right? Might say, well, he has a lot of emotional intelligence. What does that mean to be emotionally intelligent? And I hear it all the time. That to me means several things. Number one, it means that we are aware enough to divide our thoughts from our reality. See, when we take our thoughts and we impose our thoughts on reality, that's called downloading. We're kind of laying down our existing dogma, our existing habitual judgments, our existing expectations, our existing knowledge onto what we see in the now. And then we begin to react to that. So it'd be like saying to your friend Jan, who you're angry with, it's like, Jan, you did that and you really made me angry. But if we're talking in the spirit of what I'm saying, I might say, Jan, something you did gave me a thought that led to something that I reacted to, that led to the emotion that I feel, and I appreciate the opportunity to learn. So there's a different level of awareness that is available. And when I say we're not reachable, we're not available, it's because we're so caught up in the habitual ways of thinking that we have, either from our experience or learning from others, all these involuntary sources that that went into our mind, right, that permeated our membrane by osmosis, we began to think and see the world from that view. And if we really look, if we look with a keen eye, if we take a closer glimpse of why we really do what we do and where our behavior really originates from, it's really from the source of our thought. And yet, if we could develop the capacity to get close to reality without the division of thought, without making up stories, without getting under the spell of what we normally think, what could happen? What could happen on the area or the level of relationships? What could happen? How would those relationships deepen? I'm sure you've noticed times when you've seen relationships in your life break down because you assumed another person's intentions. Oh, yeah, you thought you knew. You thought you were certain. You said, oh, I know exactly what they're doing. I can't trust them for that. You didn't even confirm it. You didn't disconfirm your thinking. I think disconfirming thinking and suspending certainty may be, if not the key skill to improving the way we relate to others in the world today. And the reason I say that is we, in our time, we exist now within a web of relationships. What one person does can get around the planet in about a half a minute. So if somebody sells a bad mortgage, it's going to affect some banker or some other institution on the other side of the planet. Every action now has a reverberating reaction more than ever, more visible than ever. Feedback travels so extremely fast. It's feedback express world. That's what we're in. We're in feedback espresso. So by knowing this and knowing that change is happening at lightning pace, just at any moment things are shifting, almost like the rifleman is standing on a moving island and we're trying to hone in on the target. How do we honestly make a plan that's beyond 30 days? How do we count on the same resources that will be there after 30 days? See, we have to make assumptions when we plan that pretty much the basis of that plan will pretty much be the same. We have to assume that we can live by that and that by that time, well, things will be pretty much the same. Well, we can't. So a lot of our planning is buckling. A lot of the planning is just continuously being in the flux, operating from the context that's in motion. But see, our brain has a hard time with this. We have a hard time with this because the brain is trying to find out enough information to make sense of the new upcoming realities. Our brain is trying to store things and say, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, of course. I know what's going on. Oh, yeah, I see that. Oh, that makes sense. We have an organ in our body that spits out, it feeds us on a channel all kinds of lies. How can we do that at the speed of change that we're in? We have to purify our view of reality, folks. We have to be able to see what's really going on. Why? Because if we don't see what's really going on, then we can't harvest the little cubic centimeter of opportunity that's opening up right before us. We miss those. We get blindsided by all the doing and the doing and the doing and the doing, and I got more things to do and more things to do. We're in the time of being. When is it time to be? Leadership is the continuous process of the highest capacity of being at any moment. It's a continuous way of being. It's a capacity of being that's at our highest at any moment. That's not just active, folks. That's a receptive way of being. I heard a leader say the other day, JD, how I get things done now in my company is I listen my way into getting things done. The leader has to step back. He's got to check out a whole bunch of sources now and check out what this is doing and that's doing. And he's fed all these tributaries of information. And then he kind of sees how the game works. He sees what I call symphony. He's able to see all the different moving parts and intuitively see in concert how to navigate as if he's let me say this, as if he's an insubstantial actor in that system. What does that say about the lone wolf leader? What does that say about the fearless leader? What does that say about the individualist leader? Doesn't work. Shared leadership's where it's at. He's got to be able to develop a community. He's got to be able to get people more excited about his business than he is. He has to get curious and hungry about what's in other people's hearts. He has to tap because he knows he can't get it all done on his own. He can't carry the ladder on his back by himself. Maybe to $2 million, but after that, kapoots. Ain't going to happen. Our bodies weren't designed for that much work. We can't work 16-hour days. We're going to hit the ceiling of complexity. It's real. It's a real phenomenon, folks. This is happening. Have you felt overwhelmed lately with your business? I'm not just talking about overwhelmed from the external. I'm talking about how much you really have to process in your thinking. You not only have to reflect, but you also have to get tasks done. You have to use so many multiple parts of your brain, from things you got to get done to things you have to analyze to moments of awareness. Whew! How does this organ have the RAM to do it? You don't have the RAM. So we have to change something in the interior condition of us. We have to let go. We have to let go of judgments that no longer serve us. We have to be aware enough to disconfirm thinking that is distorting current reality. Now, I'm all over current reality on the show. In fact, I think it's the greatest capacity for leaders. The truth, the honesty, the unobstructed truth, the ability to be with what's here, to know it, and to know it well. But see, we're so busy doing and doing and doing, we just don't seem to have the time. It's more threatening for us to stay and to look again and check out what's here and take a look at it holographically from all sides and try to get the picture. And what's funny is that the whole is usually dominant over the parts. So we're too busy reducing it down to one little piece that we're looking at, and then we come in with our little quick fix solution, and then we think it's going to work, and then boom, it slingshots backward, and then it backslides, and then we make the mistake 23 more times. But the work we're doing is so incessantly frenetic. We're so busy that we just can't get our understanding clear enough to solve the fundamental problem. Don't you see this happening? Right? It's like paying credit cards. It's like paying everything on a credit card, right? You just keep paying it and paying it and paying it on the card, and moment to moment you're saying, oh, this is great. You know, the dinner was paid for. I don't have to take it out of my account, and it's extremely convenient. And what happens over about a year? You go, oh my gosh, I got so much credit card debt, I don't know what to do. So the short-term solution actually bubbles or enlarges a much bigger problem. This is called fixes that backfire. And I say this example to you because these are the kind of macro systems that are more dominant than the micro decisions that we're making. And if we're not aware of what's taking place on a macro and a micro level, then we're really slipping. We're slipping as leaders into the solutions that are actually worsening the problem. That's very, very dangerous. So what is Entrepreneurship 3.0? It's a different level of awareness. It's a different capacity of being at any moment. I'm not talking about getting more done. I'm talking about really a quality of beingness, a quality of listening that really impacts the whole dynamic of the macro structures that influence us too. We have to interact. We have to play from the periphery. We can't just play from our own initiative. It's about a listening. So we're going to take a break, and I'll be right back.
Having a life where you have the creative freedom to do what you love and to offer the world something that only you can bring to the table. That is the world of high-level performance with John Davidson. That is the world of radical creativity. That is the world that you can be a part of when you realize all that is holding you back is you. Begin the journey through one-on-one coaching that gives you the finesse for business and lifetime achievement, and find your place on the roadmap to high-level performance today. Visit highlevelperformance.com. What matters to me? What is my true work? Monetize your passion and enjoy creative freedom with the VIP Coach. You're listening to Radical Creativity with Executive Performance Coach John Davidson.
All right. The VIP Coach here. Back here with Radical Creativity. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Announcer. Yes. So, we are talking about leadership, folks, and a new geometry of power that's emerging, and I call it Entrepreneurship 3.0. And what we begin to see, based on forces that are taking place in the world and how they're impacting us internally and the way we run our business institutions, we need a new octane. We need something new that's going to purify the good that businesses can do. Because, if we don't do it, if we don't change it at a leadership level, we're all going to be sunk. I mean, we're all eating from this common resource that we have, and the tragedy is going to be we're going to lose it. Just like the fishermen up in the Georgia's banks, if they all have self-interest in getting their fish, ultimately the collective resource that they have is going to be gone. That's why there's traffic on the freeway. We're all pursuing a similar lane, a similar direction, but we collectively suffer because we're all going on the freeway. And so what the leader begins to realize is that he can't really influence people's behavior anymore by virtue of control. He can't use the hierarchy to make that happen. He's got to be able to make use of power on a collective, on a macro level, on a horizontal level. And what that means is that he has to apply himself in a more organic way. He has to lead his business in a more organic way. So what is organic leadership? Organic leadership is leadership, I wouldn't call it on the fly, but I would call it leadership that is led by, or leadership that is carried out by, an emerging future possibility that is presencing itself in the moment. You see, the quality or highest capacity of being at any moment has two particular feeds, two sources that really give rise to the leader's behavior. Number one is the leader has a picture of the future that he seeks to create. Okay, we call that vision. I mean, how many studies have there been done about companies that will weather the time here, that will weather these economic times? 80% of these CEOs that were interviewed by a recent study I heard, they all said they have a vision. Interestingly, they all said that only 20% of that vision was actually being worked into the fabric of the company. In other words, they're actually practicing it. 20%. Why is that? Well, it's because a lot of other thinking, a lot of other stuff that we've got to get done. 50% of our job descriptions are non-vision related stuff, right? If you look at your position as a CEO, think about if you were to draw out your position description, right? The duties and responsibilities, the standards by which you get the work done, your performance objectives that drive your actions. And guys, if you really think about it, most of the things that you're doing is non-vision related too. And you see, that's the stuff that gets you sucked up, because about 20% of what you do is responsible for 80% of whatever the output is. So, you have a very small number of activities that bring a high level of output, but you're doing 80% of the stuff that brings 20% of the output. There's our Pareto principle, right? It's classic, but it definitely applies. So how do we start working in our company this horizontal leadership, this capacity where slow becomes the new fast, the ability to really wake up, come out of the coma, and not have meetings in the boardroom about problems that we're trying to solve. But maybe number one is that we begin to kind of check out the opportunity of a more generative orientation. A more generative orientation in our business. What do I mean by a generative orientation? That means that we organize, right, organization. We organize, we come into being as an organization by having as our number one priority, by declaring to ourselves we will make that a priority, that which matters most to us. How many organizations do you think have not really thought about what actually matters to them? Or if they claim what matters, at best it's probably what should matter or what matters to somebody else. And so the organization is organized around someone else's goals, not the inner heartbeat of the company, not the real pulse of the company that gets great work out. We know, as Entrepreneurship 3.0 says, we know what great work is and what it only is. Great work is loving what you do and doing what you love. There is no other way. There is no other lane to great work. It is the source of great achievements. Why do you think Steve Jobs is the most successful entrepreneur on the earth right now? He says, with conviction, he said it during his 2005 commencement speech to the class of 2005 Stanford University. You can see it on YouTube. Do what you love what you do. And number two is connect the dots. Because if we stay within the trench or the love of what we do and work with our convictions, we have to trust the inner voice, the inner knowing, that whatever is being shadowed now from the future, whatever these moments are, either good or bad, uncomfortable, terrible, tragic, wonderful, exuberant, whatever we have is always connected to something. And that means that if we're going to maintain that connection between the future presencing itself and our ability to witness it now, we got to get present. We can't be thinking about what others are thinking about us. We can't be thinking about what they're thinking. We can't be thinking about what we're thinking about ourselves. That's just masturbating on all of these ideas, these concepts. A lot of that imposes, like we said, our habitual judgment, our concepts about ourselves and why we're not good enough or what we're shameful about, right? Or we're imposing what we think we're worth on the situation, or whether we have the power to create what we want. We hold all of these beliefs because the brain, it loves to be right. And one of the hardest things to do is to access our ignorance and suspend some certainty. Is to maybe come in with a beginner's mind and say, I'm going to throw all my techniques out for this. Let me look at this straight on. See, when we do what we love and we love what we do, there's kind of a sacred contract, a sacred project, as if we're the carrier of it and we're pregnant, right? And this sacred project is awakened. It's like a wild animal, like a savage that's awakened in us, and it looks out through our eyes, and anything else would betray our soul. Anything else would betray the deepest part of our being, the work that we're meant to do for the human beings that we're meant to serve. The work that we're meant to do, we owe what we love to the world, to the people we love doing it for. We owe what we love to the world for the people that we love doing it for. And along the way, there's going to be discrepancies and there's going to be uncooperative realities, right? We're going to hit up against walls and we're going to say, I want to compromise. What does this say about me? I shouldn't have this. I should have something else. We start putting all these demands on our realities. We start saying, well, I'm too good for that. Or a person like me never has that happen to them. We start to really escape the actualities of what's here. And yet, if reality could be an acquired taste, we could actually use it as the greatest teacher in the world. We would see it as a learning ally, not a learning enemy. We would be able to separate our identification with ourself from current reality. Because separate really means one. The moment I take thought away, the moment I take the fog away about reality, I actually am the same as reality. The observer is the observed, as they say in quantum physics. I see reality as it is, and reality sees me. But what we must realize is that the formless is something that is not just a wielding product of our imagination. It's a coordinated effort between the wielding product of our imagination and the wielding product of the universe wanting to do itself a certain way. There's a certain pattern of order and atmospheric condition that we observe as leaders in our organizations. We can step above our life. We can go up to the helicopter and say, I wonder what's trying to happen here. Where is this human being on the journey that he's on? What are the key challenges that this human being is going through? You might call it like the other, the other part of you, the higher part of you. Some call it a higher self. I think it's your future self. I think it's looking at your small little petty self and kind of having some negotiations and going, look, pal, you've been sitting on this perch a while. I think I need to kind of come in. Why don't you move out and I'll move in? Yeah, it's like the change of the seasons. Why doesn't the dead bloom in us kind of go away? Why don't we let go? And why don't we let come some of the new things it wants to crystallize? We are vessels. We are pathways to do good. We are destined beings. And it's not just born out of the generative love that we have in our chip. Yes, we want to make a baby. Yes, we love children. We love them enough to bring them into the world. But that creative act is a combo. It's not a mono act. It's not unilateral. It's a multilateral act. It's a blend between the forces of creativity the universe have for us and the intention, the self, the person from the future, the highest future possibility that we're always tuning that to. So we look at reality and we say, is this really who I am? The self is the higher future possibility. The one from the future, the bigger self, the dormant self, the authentic self, the part of becoming more of who we are and really moving toward a different level, really moving into greater capacities in life. I don't think there's any other way to learn. There's no other way to learn than to bring something into being that we deeply care about. And that may change as we go along because new realities that are presented to us are compared to the existing desires that we have. The desire rises out of the soul, no doubt about it. The desire of the king is rising out of spirit. It's something we're inspired by. We love it enough to see it exist. We have to love creations before we cause them, right? We create goals, we cause goals to exist that we care about. That's how we become more quality human beings. There is no other way to learn. There is no other way to change your habits. Everything else is just change for the sake of being adequate. It's got the wrong driver. It's the wrong thrust. It's not motivated out of love, and that affects the sustainability of the change. Why do we take the actions that we take? So part of that is surrender and willingness and the alacrity to commit without knowing, but yet follow the inner voice, which is the one from the future that's tempting and triggering us, and then our little fear says, no, but no, it can't have happened, and then the imaginary danger and all those things that we start to pent up. We must get to know those. We don't need to overcome them. They're real. They're built into us. We love ourselves enough to not get hurt, folks. That's why we have fear. The best way to work with fear is to get to know it and understand whether there is true danger or not. If there's true danger, great. It'll prepare you. It's called negative preparation. If there isn't any, fine. You can get out of the mirage and you can look at reality, and then you'll dispel the fear. They say fear is overcome by action. Fear is not overcome by action. Yeah, it can. Fear is overcome by you being able to outsmart the fear and look at what's actual versus virtual reality. That's what takes you out of your fear, is to get out of perceived and get into reality. But no, wait a minute. We've got a heart full of injury. We've got a defended heart. How does the future reach us? We're not an open vessel, of course, because we don't want to be vulnerable. We don't want to get hurt. We can't deepen our relationships. We can't trust. No, we got to preemptively strike. We got to get one up. We never want that to happen to us again. We got to get smart, folks. Whoa, wait a minute. We've got to control and manipulate. No, we got to control and manipulate what's going on. We got to protect ourselves. Oh, because we're the only one who will look out for ourselves, of course. And then we really shut off from the ecosystem, the real ecology of how all the moving parts about how we as human units, biological units, actually can move with one another, how we can collaborate. The reason there's divisiveness, the reason there is conflict, is because of our thought, because we divide thought between reality. And all the judgment that we have around others around us is really what's driving our sense of separation from them. But leaders more and more in Entrepreneurship 3.0 are learning how to get still. They're learning how to stop and control the pause in their life. They know how to get out of spiritual starvation and get into that sense of being connected with something larger than themselves. And then their business becomes a module for that. It becomes a vehicle for that. It becomes the place for them. It's like coming home to themselves. So if I have one thing to say to you from this program, it's to realize how much control you have about the pace of your life. Number 2, realize that you have a doing self and a being self. And maybe it's kind of okay to hang out with being and not have to justify everything that you're doing. 3, don't make long-range plans. Make short-range plans, 30-day plans. Test things out. See if it matters to you. See if it doesn't matter to you. 4, organize your life around what does matter to you, not what should matter. You'll enjoy a pleasurable involvement, which is what we're all thirsty for in life. A life of creating something to happen that doesn't exist yet. There's no greater learning pathway there is. Because when we have that future that we want to create, and it's emotional, and we have that purity of looking at current reality, and we have a sense of right action, of informed action in service to what we want to create, we can make those real moment-to-moment changes on behalf of what we don't know. We create what we do not know, but we reach for it. And by staying with it, we eliminate the nothing and bring it into something. Something gives way from nothing. And the nothing into something is the combination. It's the macro force. It's the system wanting to see itself through us because we're letting it live through our hearts. We have to tune these instruments to have the will, the heart, and the mind. An open heart, an open will, an open mind, an open heart, All of these things that are truly the fullness of who we are, the full potential, the full engager, the one who's fully present, who's listening from all sides, who's penetrable, who is reachable. If you want to be available, you need to be aware. If you want to be available, you need to let go, and then you can let come. Folks, this will be our program for today. I hope that something in this moved you at a very fundamental level, and that you're the quarterback of the game. You know, when we work with people as coaches, we realize that the ROI is really in the client. The client has to take that kind of responsibility. I hope you do as well. If you took one nugget from this show, this one right here, take it back into your life. If it's a perspective, if it's a habit, and then get yourself a coach. If you're a shared leader, if you're a horizontal leader, an organic leader, why wouldn't you have coaching in your life? It's a lifestyle choice. It's about doing it together, seeing the benefit of teamwork and collaboration, and knowing your limitations. You're not the full package. The eye cannot see itself. You can't see everything with your own eyes. Your thoughts deceive you. And think about the impact of that. Think about the impact of what you can't see. Think about what all the dimensions are that are beyond your visible realm. You can't see it. Nor can you truly see your whole vision. I don't think you can really see and polish the flame or to ignite the flame that you could light in your heart without going out into the world and getting feedback on strengths, getting feedback on why people want relationships with you, getting feedback on where people want the opportunity of you, getting feedback on what's worked and what hasn't worked. That's just not a solo trek. That process is something that requires galvanization, sharpening. It requires willingness and surrender. 714-375-6624. We're at highlevelperformance.com. Fill out the online form online. It's a coaching request form. We'd like to know a little information about you so that we can determine if you qualify for our special program. It's called the VIP Coach. And what it does is it provides entrepreneurs a unique access point for creative freedom, creative value, and creative purpose. Basically, it means that you take aim with your gifts. You help the world see the opportunity of you, and you harvest what we call a creative freedom, which is the capacity to get yourself so freed up that you're able to enter realms, real genius realms, with creative thinking and bring something to the world that no one else can. You were put here to endure and to play out a sacred project. You better listen to it because you owe it to the world. And what a coach will do is help you stick with alacrity and conviction to that one voice. Have a very productive day. Thanks for listening.
For more tools on how to liberate your gifts, become more valuable, and on purpose through radical creativity with executive performance coach John Davidson, visit highlevelperformance.com and be sure to follow John on Facebook. Check back soon to continue the journey toward radical creativity.